Kevin Harvick will race like it's 1996 with his paint scheme for the September 2nd Southern 500. His No. 4 Ford will be sponsored by Busch Beer and the car's look will be based on the beer's can design from 20 years ago. Harvick, who won the 2014 Southern 500, has been sponsored by Busch and Budweiser in the 3 throwback-themed races at Darlington Raceway so far, with Budweiser on the car in 2015. Harvick's paint scheme joins a short list of those that have been announced so far. Those include schemes for Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Matt DiBenedetto and Ryan Blaney. Here's each of Harvick's throwback schemes so far. 2015, 2016, 2017. The Dodge Charger that Richard Petty drove to the win in the 1974 Daytona 500 sold for $490,000 Saturday in the property from the collection of Richard Petty auction in Las Vegas. The car, which Petty drove to 31 of his 200 Cup victories, was one of multiple race-used cars to be auctioned off, including the No. 43 Chevrolet Darrell Wallace Jr. Finished second within February's Daytona 500. Wallace's car went for $83,197. Some cars, including the 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo Petty drove to his 7th title, went unsold. You can see the winning bid of every item here. Here's what other notable items sold for: 1964 Grand National Championship Trophy $83,200, 2008 No. 9 Budweiser Dodge Charger $35,200. Follow at Daniel McFadden. NASCAR's All-Star Weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway nears this weekend with the Monster Energy All-Star Race and a Camping World Truck Series race. The field for the All-Star Race is made up of race winners in 2017 and 2018, former All-Star Race winners who are competing full-time and Cup champions who are competing full-time. Drivers currently set to compete in the All-Star Race are Ryan Blaney, Clint Bowyer, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kane, Matt Kenseth, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Jamie McMurray, Ryan Newman, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Busch is the defending winner of the race. The All-Star Race is preceded by the 50-lap Monster Energy Open. The Open is broken up into 3 stages of 20 laps and a 10-lap sprint. The winner of each stage will advance to the main event. A fan vote will advance a 4th driver. There are 21 entries for the Open. Click here for the entry list. Truck Series, North Carolina Education Lottery 200. There are 36 entries for the race. Kyle Busch will make his 3rd start of the season. He will drive the No. 51 Toyota. Brandon Jones is entered in Kyle Busch Motorsports number 46 Toyota. Todd Gilliland, driving KBM's number 4 Toyota, makes his 3rd start of the year. He turns 18 on Tuesday, allowing him to compete on all NASCAR tracks. Last year this race was won by Busch. He won over Johnny Sauter and Christopher Bell. Click here for the entry list. Steve O'Donnell, NASCAR's Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer, has cast doubt on Kyle Larson's claim that his rear window was sagging after Saturday's Cup race due to race damage. We see claims of damage, but I think in talking to our folks, I've never seen damage cause that. O'Donnell said Monday on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio's The Morning Drive, "We'll go back like we always do and thoroughly inspect the car. It's an area we continue to focus on because the teams know that they found something there and if we have to react, we will. But again, still looking at it, extra attention was paid to Larson's No. 42 Chevrolet following the race at Kansas Speedway. An official kept watch over it on pit road, and it was taken to the R. The rear window appeared to be sagging, which Larson attributed to damage from an incident with Ryan Blaney with 20 laps to go. Definitely from the damage, because I didn't have it until after Blaney and I got together, so I'm glad to see that we have a lot of damage back there," Larson told FS1 after finishing fourth. "Because obviously if there was no damage, we'd probably get a penalty, and who knows, we might still, but I got a ton of damage back there. These cars are pretty rigid, and one piece of damage can affect the whole rest of the car, as you can see, so we'll see what NASCAR says about it, but I think it's pretty obvious we have a ton of damage back there." NASCAR has issued 4 penalties for rear window violations this season: Kevin Harvick's team after a Las Vegas win, Chase Elliott's day after an 11th at Texas, and Daniel Suarez and Clint Bowyer each lost their car chiefs for 2 races because of rear window support brace failures at Dover. O'Donnell was asked about the possibility of news later in the week about Larson's car. "I think there's certainly something you can look for," O'Donnell said. "With the race teams, no different than rear skew in the past, where it was an area teams found that they could work on. Suddenly, it's become the rear window area." Steve O'Donnell, Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer for NASCAR, called the pattern of teams not getting cars through inspection frustrating for the sanctioning body. Appearing on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio's The Morning Drive Monday morning, O'Donnell addressed the issue after a weekend where 6 teams were unable to make qualifying attempts for the Cup race at Kansas Speedway due to not passing inspection in time. Matt Kenseth, Clint Bowyer, Matt DiBenedetto, Casey Kane, Timmy Hill and Michael McDowell did not make qualifying attempts and started from the rear of the field. The teams of Jimmy Johnson and Jamie McMurray had to scramble to get their cars on the track with less than 2 minutes left in round 1. "It's really a frustrating topic for us," O'Donnell said. "You've heard me come on and say we've got the most talented engineers in the world working on the race cars, and we believe that. And it's certainly frustrating because it is on the teams to present their cars for inspection." O'Donnell compared the inspection issue to a hypothetical scenario in baseball. "It's become really the equivalent of a Chris Bryant, Chicago Cubs, third baseman, coming to the plate with a bat you can't use," O'Donnell said. "The umpire says, you can't use that, comes back with a bat you can't use. The umpire says it again and then the third time says, you can't make your plate appearance, then the batter runs to the media and says, I can't believe they did this. At some point it's frustrating on our end, and at some point we've got to get the teams to be able to show up and get through tech inspection. It's the same every week, and it's one of those things that most teams are able to do it." O'Donnell said NASCAR needs to streamline the process somehow, and work with teams to ensure we're getting everybody out there. That's what the fans pay to see, and that's what we collectively should want to do as an industry. 2 weeks ago at Dover, pole sitter Kyle Larson was one of 3 drivers who had to start from the rear for issues in pre-race inspection. The car chiefs for Larson and Alex Bowman were ejected from the event for their cars failing inspection 3 times. O'Donnell was asked if NASCAR could increase penalties to further deter teams from going over the line. "We feel like we've done that. It hasn't seemed to work," O'Donnell said. "I think we'll go back and just look at it collectively and continue to focus on the teams that are doing it right and really make that be the narrative and continue to do so. Where we can make an adjustment, we certainly will. Last thing we want to do, is penalize any team. We don't want that to be the narrative. We want the narrative to be around the race product.